Ark Survival Evolved. That's actually one of my favorite games. I haven't played it in a long time though. It's actually January was the last time I played it. I actually played PixArk recently. But that's how I got Staxel going, and Staxel is another game I'd like to play. But Ark Survival Evolved, beautiful game. I would have to put it on like easy and make my own cheaty server for it to actually be okay, because again, I can't play multiplayer. Borderlands 2, a game I barely played. Last time I played it was 2016 actually. City Skylines, I don't know. It doesn't really fall into any of the categories that I'm focusing on right now, which is, I don't know, Skylines is just kind of SimCity, the better version of SimCity. Colony Survival is kind of a medieval style game. Minecraft, but instead of mining and crafting, you're building a castle, so you can actually build things yourself, but you can't do it very well. That's why you got to make these people come in and do it for you. Basically, the scope is to protect your castle from zombies by letting the zombies come in, but having like archers, and I think you can have swordsmen. I think you can give your character swords, maybe. I know you can have a sword, and you can go after the zombies with swords and bows and things like that. So you can basically do everything your colonists do. It's just your colonists do it better because they do it in greater numbers. Just look at the games that I've got, and tell me if anything else looks interesting that you might like to see. I'd like to do a Medieval Engineers gameplay. My Lovely Daughter, a very interesting game. I loved it, but I was also a bit freaked out about it because it deals with some really weird stuff. Occupy White Walls is insane. It's this weird game, right? I wouldn't mind playing it as a Let's Play, but it's very tedious. It takes a long time to build your gallery. It's the whole idea of the game is to build an art gallery. I found actually quite a few artists, new artists and modern artists, and even classic artists that I'd never really heard of before by playing this game. There's got to be thousands of art pieces. You can also buy decorations and stuff for your gallery. It's basically a built-in game. And it has a lot of good building elements. It's just really annoying that you have to purchase every block that you want to expand your gallery out into. It's interesting. It's very interesting if you're into art and you're into building games, and those two things somehow click together in your head to make sense, building art galleries and viewing art and experiencing people. It's playable on satellite, if that is something you needed to know. If you're a fellow satelliteer. Pixel Dungeon is a roguelike. Raft is another survival game, a survival building game. That might be a good one to have as my survival building game. I just kind of want to do Minecraft, but I don't know which mod pack to play. And again, it can't be multiplayer, so... RimWorld is this really strange, like, colony building. I have not gotten very far in it because it's kind of roguelike in that it's hard. I wouldn't say it's as hard as Sins of a Solar Empire hard, because Sins of a Solar Empire pissed me off very badly. I have not won a single game. I don't know what it is. If it's just that I need to like tweak this difficulty settings, but there's so many settings in this game. It's insane. Saints Row 2, Saints Row. Any of these Saints Row games would be neat to play in a Let's Play series because they have a storyline, and I don't know. It's kind of like playing a game and letting the game tell the story, but then I can actually like kind of riff off the game's silly stories. Sakura Clicker, as dirty as the premise was, and it's a free game, I was like thinking there'd be titties and stuff in it, but there's no titties. There's no nudity. It's just a bunch of sexy anime monster girls that you click as fast as you can, and in no particular places on their body. And you just build, basically you're building a party and you're enhancing the party's stats with the levels that you get by clicking. It's a clicker game. Have you ever played a cookie clicker or anything like that? It's like that. Scrap mechanic. Oh man, this game has so much potential, but it's not really it's barely a game yet. They added a thing that was like test your skills at building things, little arenas that you can finish a specific set of obstacles or whatever by building your machine and then using the machine to complete the obstacle or whatever. But there's no real survival mechanics yet. It is slated to have survival mechanics. You can tell that the game wants to be a survival building game, but it's not there yet. Simple Planes is going to be like the avionics version of Kerbal, and it's not quite as big as Kerbal in that kind of way, but there's the way that you build the planes or even the land vehicles that you can make in it is a lot more like Space Engineer or Empyrean. Sins of a Solar Empire is like the only 4X game I have. It's a strategy, real-time strategy. I believe it's real time. It has, it's really good. It's really great, but at the same time, I find it very frustrating. Slime Rancher is, what would you call it? It's a farming game. As in, you do raise crops, but you are more raising these slimes, which you basically feed these slimes their favorite foods, and they poop out gems that you suck up and then shoot into a machine that it's basically this almost like a ticker, LCD electronic ticker board of all these different types of gems that these slimes can poop out. And the prices go up and down. Like if you keep hammering one type of gem into the economy, that price will drop drastically and you won't get back as much. So you have to kind of even out all of your different things, and you can store these gems even for later when the prices go back up. But the idea is to get all these different types of slimes with gradually more and more expensive or worthy. They're more valuable is the word I'm looking for. Yeah. So anyways, Slime Rancher. You go around sucking up slimes and then shooting them into enclosures and feeding them. So the game's actually not very violent at all. And your character doesn't... I don't think your character dies. I think they just go back into their home for the day and rest it off. I don't think there's a game over for this game. So it's good for kids. Very beautiful. Cartoony. Beautiful. Colors. Colorful. Stardew Valley is basically a really well thought out PC adaptation of like the Harvest Moon's games, and it is a really good farm game. And if I wanted to do a strict farm game, it'd probably be Stardew Valley, but Staxel is kind of like 3D Stardew Valley with elements of Minecraft in it. So I don't know. Maybe not. Stonehearth is an interesting game. How do I describe it? It's a little bit Minecraft in that you got blocks. Stonehearth is 3D, kind of like a 3D Dwarf Fortress. That's a good way to say it. Stranded Deep. Stranded Deep is a little bit of Subnautica with less sub. It's a survival game where you gotta... It's like hardcore survival. You've got all these little islands, and you gotta figure out a way to get from island to island to get more resources. And I think the ultimate thing is to build a helicopter or something like that, and then you can basically travel out and find a way to safety or whatever. I don't know. Subnautica is Stranded Deep with no islands. No, actually there are islands in Subnautica. It's just the land is very sparse in Subnautica. Sparse, but like the islands, I think there are a few islands. It's been so long since I played, I don't remember. Subnautica's great. It's you basically your super high tech futuristic spaceship blows up and crashes on this planet, and you basically got to salvage what you can from it. It ends up going nuclear and making a good chunk of the place radioactive, so you have to actually build yourself up to a radiation suit to get onto the ship and get all the neat parts that let you build like a submarine and other equipment, like a robot suit, a submarine, a small submersive vehicle, and then a large submersive vehicle, and then there's like a mech suit that you can have. It's really neat, and it's mostly underwater, and it's pretty beautiful actually. It's actually pretty trippy too. Just the idea of being underwater most of the time is neat. Sydney Hunter and the Curse of the Mayan, is a great game, and it's coming out very soon. It's not available to play, but hey, why not? I guess I could do Sydney Hunter and the Curse of the Mayan. This is actually a game that the team that I work with, Collector Vision, made. I did the music. I will definitely be doing it someday. And it's ready for it. But I'd kind of like to do it in tandem with the release, or as it's released, after it's released, sometime like that. Terraria is a Metroidvania procedurally generated planet world. It's the only world though. It's like, it's a lot bigger, I'd say, than the average. Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's bigger or not than Starbound worlds, planets, but it's big. It's a big world, and it's got a lot of stuff to do in it. And it's very much Metroidvania. More Metroidvania than Starbound, actually. Torchlight and Torchlight 2, of course, are basically those Diablo-type roguelikes, with kind of a more cartoony, more of a, not really cartoony, a more bright and solid shaded type art style to it. It's nice. Tug is an anomaly, sort of. It's still playable to me, for me. In fact, I played it a while ago and I was like, you know, this might actually be something that I would like to bring back. Like, make people remember that it was a thing. It failed miserably. It was bought out. As far as I understand, the people who were making the game bailed. I don't know if they did so willingly or not, but the people who were behind Tug, the unnamed game, whoever was involved with it, the development company, Nerd Kingdom, they just totally abandoned it. And it's got the core game and some other stuff that works, but it's like the version right before this version, it seems like, had more functionality than this version has. Ultra Street Fighter 4 is not my favorite version of Street Fighter. I think Alpha 2 on the PlayStation is probably my favorite Street Fighter version. I like Alpha on the Super Nintendo. Was the original Alpha the last Alpha that was 2D? There's a 2D really good one on Super Nintendo, I believe, that I liked. And then there is the 3D one that's on the PlayStation. I think it's 3D on the PlayStation. It may not be. It may just be 2D. But there's one on the PlayStation that I like too. But I would play that if somebody really wanted me to. Yeah, it's kind of the bottom of the bucket kind of thing. I didn't talk about Everything. Everything is actually a game that was heavily made by, artistically speaking, by David O'Reilly, which is one of my favorite animators and creative people. It's not really that much of a game. It does have puzzle elements though. So, I mean, you have to figure out certain ways to get through certain parts of it. And it's highly exploratory. It's just like experimental and exploratory. It's basically the idea that we can go down so small in this world that we actually go past quantum, the state of like the Planck's length, where things actually make sense to us. We can go beyond that and actually start exploring some of the shapes and parts that make up the tiny quantum world. But at the same time, when you go so deep into these tiny quantum realms, you end up in a universe, right? You end up going down so small that you find out that you're actually coming out the other side of a universe. And then you can find planets and go on the planets and see that it has this brilliant artistic fake infinity going on for it. It's like you can tell after a while that there's only actually a few things that are making this universe or these universes happen. And you kind of realize I'm in the same universe now that I was before, even though I made all that movement into what seemed like a new universe, right? But you're really kind of in the same universe. But you have to wonder, like, am I in the same universe? Is this how reality is? If I get big enough, do I just become small again? Is everything that's really huge just a small version of the smallest thing, you know? It's one of them trippy mind fuck kind of games. The Forest is another game that's survival horror. It's the only survival horror game that I've got, but it's pretty good. Probably not going to play it anytime soon. Eco is not a great game to play by yourself, but there are mods that make it interesting. I might play it. It's very much like the quintessential survival farming, survival building technology kind of game. It focuses on not destroying your planet. There's very little bad things that can happen to you. Unless you're on a multiplayer, then I think you can actually shoot each other. I think if somebody is caught breaking the law, you can shoot them with a bow. Or at least that's how it was supposed to be in the beginning. I don't know what it's like now. I am sorry. I'm sorry I make the mic clip so much. Doki Doki Literature Club. I don't know if that's worth doing. It's a really good game. It's fun. It's a visual novel unlike any other visual novels. Or if there are other visual novels like it, somebody copied Doki Doki. But the Doki Doki Literature Club, mindfuck and brilliant, fun, funny, interesting, bizarre, glitchy, fascinating. If I had, in the future, if I had the means and time to devote a series to it, probably. It actually doesn't take that long to play. A playthrough, so it might actually be worth it. It's kind of one of those games, though, I feel like I would like to have a side kick while I'm playing it. Somebody who would be more like freaked out by things than I am, because I'm not easily freaked out by things. In fact, like if I were able to experience actual waking nightmares occasionally, I would probably dig it. It's like, I'm a weirdo. It's like, I like things that I know that aren't real, and I like challenging myself with things that aren't real, that my mind might try and make me think are real, right? It just is fun to me. Which is very little that I think is real. I'm not even concerned that reality is real. That's probably my problem, is that I have my doubts about this. It's like, yep. Hey, there's The Sims. I don't know if that's a game worth playing or not. It's actually not a Steam game, but there's Notepad. It's like, I don't know. I don't even have those on the screen right now. I forgot I moved it. But hey, there's Notepad and The Sims 4 and Steam. I can play Steam in Steam. I don't think I explained why I'm not going to play Path of Exile, but it mostly has to do with being behind fucking satellite internet. Pardon me. Same for like Age of Chivalry. I don't think so. I think that's probably something I need to be online to play. Same with Counter-Strike, Source. Skyrim is a classic. I haven't finished the game. I haven't played the game very often. In fact, last time I played the game looks to be in 2017. In November of 2017. So I must not be very interested in it, so don't suggest that game, I guess. Or suggest it, I don't care. I didn't say anything about Factorio, did I? Not directly. Factorio, if you don't know, is a factory building game. You build the factories 2D, overhead style. You build machines, belts, dig for different types of resources to make more stuff, to make bigger and better stuff. So you automate everything so that it does it by itself. All in the name of launching rockets. Towards the end, you launch rockets. I really never understood what that was for. I also just don't understand why the autofocus on my camera has been so wacky today. Fortress Craft Evolved is kind of like Factorio 3D. So it's almost exactly the same kind of gameplay. In fact, it has similar elements. Factorio has monsters that they're aliens and they want to kill you because they're kind of the native, I think they're pretty much the native species of critter on the planet, and you're pissing them off because you're creating pollution. But they're ugly and they're buggy looking and they're menacing. But in Fortress Craft, you've got the same kinds of things almost. It's more like a tower defense sort of thing, though. Not very complicated tower defense. It's basically they come from the corners of the map, and at the four corners of the map there are hive minds, I think is what they're called, and they actually send these little bugs out. The more pollution that you make, or the more production that you make, the more stuff that you are doing. Gary's mod. I don't think I have what it takes to make Gary's mod interesting. Grand Theft Auto, that would be fun. Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition, that would be fun. That is a story-based game that I could do, and it's classic. It's old, but it's a very good game. And it has a lot of interesting things I could do in it. I think I've gone over everything. I had to go back over the list and make sure I didn't miss anything, and I did. Undertale. I missed Undertale. Undertale is, for the uninitiated, kind of this strange modern take on old school RPGs. It's fairly minimalistic in a lot of its graphics. But it's really deep in what it does, and its mechanic is interesting. Its RPG mechanic is interesting. The fighting mechanic of it is interesting. Most of it is a lot of storyline, very weird humor. It reminds me, and it's supposed to remind you of, it's supposed to try to remind people of Earthbound a bit, or Mother. But at the same time, it has its own world. It has its own humor, and it's really good. I may do that. It just seems like something that was really popular when it was popular, and now it wouldn't go over very well. So yeah. Anything else? So no Path of Exile because it requires the internet, and I don't have good internet. I have satellite internet. I mentioned The Sims 4. Maybe I could play The Sims 4. There's a few other games that I have. This isn't like the Steam version. This is just a standalone version. But I have a couple of other games that I might be able to play. I have, well, a ton of games that aren't Steam games that I could probably play. I think I explained why I didn't want to play some things, and I think I explained everything else. So yeah. Excellent. I don't know if that goes well with what I forgot in the ending of the whole video, but whatever. Those are the games I've got. Well, these are the Steam games I've got. There are some other games, and I'd be willing to take requests. I just don't have a lot of money. That's the idea. You're supposed to get all your friends and family to love my channel and get me up there to where I can actually monetize, to where I can buy a game or two a year off my profits, and then play more games. I don't know. I'd rather make money off of playing the games, a decent amount at least, that would make up for the time that I was spending playing the game. Even though I do gain the happiness and the enjoyment of playing the game, that's worth something. At the same time, though, I don't know. A lot of people make money playing games, and that's pretty great. I would never be able to convince my family of that back in the 80s, that's for sure. Alright, I'm done.